Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah Yomi continues in chapter 1 of Makkot, Mishnayot Vav Zayin today, expanding the idea of edim Zomemin, the scheming witnesses. And yesterday we learned that we have to have a second set of witnesses say that this first set of witnesses was somewhere else and could not have witnessed what they are saying they witnessed in order to make them edim Zomemin. Now, another qualification in Mishnah 6, Eina edim Zomemin haragin, scheming witnesses cannot be executed if it was a murder trial and they were accusing someone of murder, saying they witnessed the murder, Achi Gamer Din, until the verdict was reached in the actual murder case. So if the two witnesses say Reuven killed someone, we saw Reuven kill Shimon, well, after Reuven is found guilty, but before Reuven is executed, that's when edim Zomemin can be made into edim Zomemin by another set of witnesses coming forward and saying you could not have possibly seen that murder you were testified to because you were somewhere else with us. And the Mishnah points out, Shahari HaTzadukim Omrim, the Sadducees would say, the people who didn't believe in the oral law, they said, Achi Hareg, that edim Zomemin aren't executed for accusing someone of murder unless that person they accused actually was executed already by the court. Shenemar, they bring the pasuk, Nefesh Tachat Nafesh, a soul for a soul. Amru L'chaim Chachamim, the sages argued against the Sadducees. They said, Hello, Kvar Namar. Doesn't it also say in Devarim chapter 19, V'asitem lo kasher zamam lasot lachiv? You need to do to the scheming witnesses what they intended to do to their brother. V'harei achiv kayam. So it sounds like in the pasuk that their brother is still living. It also says in the pasuk, the Gemara explains, kasher zamam, as they intended, v'lo kasher asa, but not if they'd actually done the punishment already. The sages continue their argument against the Sadducees. V'imken, if so, lama ne'amar nefesh tachat nafesh, what about your pasuk, a soul for a soul? Yachol mishasha kiblu dusan yaharegu. It could be that from the moment we get the testimony of these edim Zomemin, and we get the testimony that contradicts them, so there's somewhere else, we should execute them immediately. Talmud Lamar nefesh tachat nafesh. Ha'enu haragin ashigamer din. It's a life for a life, so it's only when the life of the man they're accusing there's a verdict that his life will end in execution, that's when the edim Zomemin can officially be made edim Zomemin by a new set of witnesses. Now on to Mishnah Zayin, which points out an amazing thing in the Torah. Al pi shnayim edim o shlosha edim yumat hamet. This is a verse in Devarim chapter 19, on the testimony of two witnesses or three witnesses, the accused murderer will be put to death. So the Mishnah asks, Im mitkayemet edut b'shnayim, if we can have valid testimony with two, if two is enough for a valid unit, lama paratakatu v'shlosha, why does the verse add on or three? It must be the verses comparing the legal status of the three to the two. The Mishnah explains, just like three can cause edei hazama by two, meaning if three witnesses came forward and said about the first two witnesses, you could not have seen that, what you were testifying about, you were with us somewhere else. So too, two witnesses can come and point out that a group of three witnesses that testified already was somewhere else at the time and could not have seen what they said that they testified to. Uminayin afilu meya, what if it's even 100? What if there's a group of 100 witnesses who said they saw a murder? What if two witnesses come forward and say, all 100 of you could not have seen that? That would be a valid hazama. Two could uproot the testimony of 100. Talmud Lamar, edim. It says edim, witnesses in the plural, any number. The idea being, the general concept in halakha is once you have two valid witnesses, and of course the judges are probing their testimony and making sure their testimony is accurate, that's just as good as 100 witnesses. We don't say that there's strength in numbers by testimony in a court. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he adds, Ma shnayim eina neharogin achiyu shneim zomemin, just like if the original group is two men testifying and then they're found to be zomemin, we can't execute them for accusing someone of murder unless both of them were somewhere else. We have testimony that both of them were not there. Af shlosha, so too, if there are three witnesses in the original group, eina neharagin achiyu shloshtam zomemin, none of them can be executed until all three of them were found to be somewhere else. How do you know even 100 witnesses? Talmud Lamar, edim. So he says it's a kula, it's a leniency, that you couldn't execute a whole group of edim zomemin unless every single one of them was proven to be somewhere else at the time they're testifying about. Rabbi Akiva Omer, disagreeing, lo ba hashlishi ela lahachmer alav. The mention of the third is only to be machmer on this group of edim zomemin, lasot dino kiyotze be'elu, that he's also executed with the edim zomemin. Of course, there has to be testimony that this third witness was not there at the to witness what he's saying he saw. But the chumrah on this third witness is they only needed two witnesses. They only needed two men there to accuse Reuven of being the murderer. And this third guy went along with him. You might have said, well, the third guy to testify, the third guy in the group, he was really, we didn't need him. We didn't need him to accuse Reuven. So even if all three of these witnesses are found to be Zomemin, the third guy shouldn't get executed. No, Rabbi Akiva says he would indeed get executed, even though technically his testimony was not needed. And Rabbi Akiva adds on to this a general philosophical idea. Ve'im ken, if so, anashakotov lenitpal over avera, if the Torah will punish someone who he's not necessary for the avera, for the sin to be committed, but he's going along with the guys committing the sin, ke over avera, and he gets executed if they're all proven to be edim zomemin, just like the first two guys who are actually needed for the edim zomemin testimony, alachat kama v'kama. So all the more so, yeshalem sochar, Hashem will give a great reward, lenitpal la'osei mitzvah ka'osei mitzvah, somebody who's involved with people who are doing a mitzvah, just like the people who are really critical to performing that mitzvah. An example could be Sarah and Rivka are going to go visit their friend in the hospital and take her some food, and Rachel and Leah come along too, and Rachel and Leah aren't needed to carry the food, but they're there also to cheer up. They're a little bit involved in the mitzvah. They'll get schar, just like the people who are really necessary to come and bring food to someone sick in the hospital. Of course, we have a general concept that the midah tova is at least 1,000 times, at least 2,000 times greater than the midah of punishment. So Baruch Hashem, it's incumbent on us, even when we're not truly needed to do the mitzvah, if we're coming along and supporting and encouraging the mitzvah and making it a greater, more beloved mitzvah and more impactful, that is a huge thing to do. Yishar kochachem tizku lemitzvot.